Hello, I'm Samantha Ridgway. I'm an undergraduate anthropology student here at George Mason University, and this is my research project, Do the Short Die Young? A comparative study of medieval and post-medieval children's growth patterns from St. Peter's Church in Barton-upon-Humber. St. Peter's resides in a small market town in North Lincolnshire, England, where excavations have yielded the largest collection of human remains in the United Kingdom, spanning a period from the late 10th century to the mid-19th. I reviewed a sample of 736 individual remains, 238 subadults, and 498 adults, all with complete femur longbone lengths, in order to assess if subadults within this population are a representative sample of the adult population, who are normally shorter than modern people. But why does height matter? Some populations are quite simply short, an evolutionary advantage in certain environments and latitudes. If this gene expression is the case within the St. Peter's population, the subadults should reflect the adult population in stature. If not, this can infer malnourishment, which leads to stunted growth, lack of full height potential, and a likelihood to succumb to disease. So my objective with this research is to better understand the challenges faced by medieval and post-medieval children and the impact of childhood mortality on shaping the structure of Barton-upon-Humber's population. So where do we start? From the St. Peter's human remains sample, I utilized what is called the Usher model, developed by Dr. Bethany Usher of George Mason University. In the simplest of terms, here are the steps to achieve conclusive results from this data. First, plot the statures of the subadult and adult sample against the World Health Organization's average growth standards of modern populations. Find the normalization factor for males, females, unsexed adults, and unsexed subadults. Then, determine the normalized mean stature of this sample population and add to the scatter plot. Compare the normalized statures and the original skeletal statures to determine whether the immature individuals in the sample are taller or shorter than their contemporaries. Determine if there is a trend in the data and how close or far the population is to the WHO healthy growth standards. Next, calculate residuals to determine how far subadult heights are from where they should have been. This finds how much shorter, on average and for set age groups, the subadults are from their overall sample population. Create new residual plot with trend line. Finally, determine if subadults represent the adult population in stature. Following this model, I found that subadult stature does not represent the adult population buried at St. Peter's. The children are significantly shorter than their expected stature and accumulate risk over time. Here's how we know. In this scatter plot, we can see that subadults at time of death trended to be short, especially getting to the later teens, with a few outliers. They were also well below the WHO healthy growth standard. This residual graph and trend line echoes a similar statement. Overall, these children were much shorter than what would be expected at time of death. Some kids were 10, 15, even 20 centimeters shorter than what would be expected. More specifically, there was an increase in growth selectivity over time, with juveniles even more shorter than expected in late teenagehood. We can also see that these subadults do not represent their adult population in stature. In Barton-upon-Humber, simply, short kids were dying. They didn't grow up to be short adults. Rather, they didn't grow up at all. Furthermore, based on the original archaeological excavations, these cemetery remains were dated throughout a 900-year period, broken into phases within this residual graph. Though we must take into account the smaller sample size of phase data, we can still see generally that medieval and post-medieval children did not represent their adult population and died shorter in stature than expected. Further discussion, by applying Usher's model to other populations across time and space, what more can we learn about selective mortality and life history trade-offs? Thank you so much for listening, and please make sure to check out my other research team members' presentations within this symposium, who analyzed other cemetery populations, all titled Do the Short Die Young? Bye!